That's when she advised me to turn the lights off, advised the kids lay down in the seat.
Okay. I want to ask this be marked as the next numbered exhibit and then passed back to him, because I want him to do a couple more marks on it.
No objection. The Google map identified by Mr. Hathaway, marked with a red marker, will be marked as Exhibit 39 and moved into evidence.
Okay. So is 825 Hamilton Street depicted on this picture? Is it
Yes.
highlighted? Okay. I want you to do two things for me. I want you to draw a little X at where you stopped and then a circle at where you remember the bag being.
Mark with the X, what?
Exit where you stopped
Okay,
and a circle where the bag was.
okay. All right.
Okay. If I could just, if we could pass that to the jury before I keep going. And while we do that, the X where you stopped, is that where she told you to?
Yes.
Okay. And did you turn your lights off?
Yes, I did.
Yes. Okay.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, take all the time you need to look at any exhibit that you're passed today. Keep in mind, you will be taking all those back with you to the jury room during deliberations.
I'm going to bring back in Eric Faddis and Kelly Hyman. Eric, this is the reality. Right now they're looking at exhibits. He had to circle where he remembered the bag being, and now they're getting it into evidence. This is typical for court, yes?
Oh, yeah, very standard. And, you know, like you said, this happened years ago, and so memories are flawed, and this is just kind of where he thinks that Ellie may have been.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious to hear if there's a theory by the state about what's in that bag, but we'll have to wait and see. We're going to take a break while it's quiet in the courtroom. Of course, when we come back, we'll get you back into that testimony.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, a 5-year-old vanishes and 2 years pass before she's reported missing. Now her own father stands trial for her murder. Our legal experts are going to break down all of today's proceedings in the case against Adam Montgomery. Plus, another dramatic day of testimony in the Murders Between Mothers trial. We'll bring you all of the biggest moments as this trial moves forward.
Closing Arguments, tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
Testimony remains underway in the Murder Between Mothers trial out of Tennessee. Defendant Annette Harvey has pled not guilty to first-degree murder in connection to the stabbing death of Robin Leonard. On the stand right now is a taxi driver. He picked up Harvey from Leonard's house early Saturday morning and drove her to a preacher's house. He was now looking at some exhibits to circle exactly where he remembered a bag being. Let's get you back into court.
Yes, sir. She got back in the vehicle, and then I went ahead and pulled up through the alley, turned my lights on, and she advised me she needs to go down to a church down in Jonesboro. She did not know the address, so she directed me down to the church where she wanted to go next. On the way down through there, she advised me she's being followed. Mm-hmm. She kept looking around behind her. I asked her who she's supposed to be followed by. She said her husband or fiance, can't remember exactly what she advised me, we're being followed by him. And I advised her at that time, they don't have to worry. I don't see nobody following us, so she don't have to worry about nothing while she's in the taxi with me. Mm-hmm. So I personally reached up, readjusted my mirror.
Why'd you do that?
Down to keep an eye on the kids.
Okay.
Because kids is, anytime I get a red flag up in my taxi, I pay attention to who's in my back seat.
Okay.
But I noticed in my mirrors on the side of my vehicles, there was no one following us.
Okay. So, did you proceed to where was she telling you where to go?
Yes, she directed me exactly where to go. Went down to Jonesboro, made a right on Boones Creek Road. We went to a preacher's house on Boones Creek Road. We pulled up in the driveway. She advised me that time again, turn my lights off, told the kids to stay in the vehicle. She got out, went up to the door, knocked on the door. I assume it was a pastor. Came out to the door in a robe. I heard him say, "Get away from here." And I took it where his tone of voice, she's been down there before for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. So I turned my attention back to the kids in the back seat. I asked them, I said, "Are you all right?"
Did you?
And the oldest child said, "I don't want to go with her."
Said what now?
"I do not want to go with her."
Really?
I said, "You're safe. You're safe now. You're with me."
Okay. When she got out of your car to go to that door, where was that bag? That red bag?
It was in the back seat.
Okay. She left it behind?
Yeah, she left it behind.
Okay. And is this still nighttime?
It's in the morning. It's in the morning.
Night? Is it night though? Is it dark?
Yeah, it's just getting daybreak, I guess. Kind of daybreak.
whether the pastor had been woke up by this or not, would you know?
I would say the way he was actually dressed in the robe, he probably was woke up because she had to beat on the door quite several times.
Beat on the door?
Yeah.
Okay. So, did she get back in your car?
After about roughly 5 to 7, 8 minutes, she came back to the vehicle.
Okay. And she get back in?
Yes, sir.
And what did she say at that point?
She said her husband has got a track on her phone. She knew. He knew that she was going to come down there to the preacher's house. That's the reason he don't want to help her no more. And turned the cab around, started out the driveway. She threw her phone out in the bottom of his driveway. And as soon as I turned on right onto Boones Creek Road, she asked to use my phone.
Okay. She used your phone?
Yes.
What did she use that for?
She called apparently her husband or boyfriend, whoever it was, up in New Jersey, I think. Got in an argument with him saying that she did not turn the lights off on him, and if she's getting tired of him abusing kids, doing sexual acts with the kids. She is aware she was up there when him and her son took the life of a priest. Wife's up there, and she don't want no part of it no more. And if she can't have her kids, ain't nobody gonna have her kids.
She said that?
Yes. She told me she's kidnapping her kids. I said, no, you're not kidnapping your kids.
Let's slow down. Let's stay on the phone there a second.
Okay.
Could you hear the other person?
No, I did not hear her.
The volume wasn't that high. You couldn't hear her.
No, she did not have her on speaker or nothing. She had up to her ear.
Was she upset talking?
Oh, yeah. You could tell she was very upset.
Okay. So phone call ends?
Well, she stayed on the phone probably roughly 4 or 5 minutes with the other party.
Are you driving?
Yeah, yes.
Where are you driving to?
Down Boones Creek Road towards the interstate.
Okay. You're not going anywhere she's telling you to at that point, are you?
No.
So at some point, the word kidnap come out of her mouth?
Yeah, she said,
Tell us about that.
Yeah. After the phone call was hung up, she said, I've kidnapped my kids. I said, no, you haven't kidnapped your kids. She said, yes, I have. So she actually admitted to me personally that she's kidnapped her kids.
Okay.
And I asked her, I said, no, you haven't kidnapped your kids. She said, yes, I have.
Okay. So what did you do?
I said, okay, well, where are you going? She said, well, I need to go back up north. I said, okay, but if you're going up north, I need to call my wife and let her know I'm going to be out of town. So she knows I'm going to be out of state.
Were you going to drive up north?
If she had the money, I would.
I got you on that.
You know, because I've been to New York in taxi. I've been to South Carolina. I've been to Nashville.
Gotcha.
But
at that point, what's on your mind now?
Okay,
What's on your mind?
At that point, I text my so-called wife, but I was texting my dispatcher.
Okay.
I text him 911, kidnap 2 kids, Shell Station, Boones Creek Road.
Okay. Why'd you do that?
Because my intention is to get these kids safe.
Now, do y'all have a way at the cab company that message means something to dispatch?
I always told my dispatcher, if I start my text to them, 911, it's serious.
Okay.
I need law enforcement.
So do you call 911 or today?
They did.
They did, because you told them to.
Yeah, 911 is first comment with my text.
You're telling them where you're going, is that?
Yes.
It's fair to say?
Yes.
You know, it's a few more miles. It's not too far to the Shell station.
No.
Right. So is she saying anything more after this, after you're doing the texting, or is anything missing there?
No, she just said, you know, we're gonna go back. We're gonna go back.
Okay. Did she say she had the money, or did she?
That wasn't in my conversation with her no more.
You didn't. That wasn't your.
No, because I know that the comment she made that she kidnapped her kids, then that's everything else right there was none of my concern, because I want to get them kids safe.
Got you. Okay. So did you go to the Shell station?
Yes, sir, I did.
Were there cops there then, or they come later?
No, they was not there then. I pulled in the Shell station right there at the front door. I said, I'm going to go here and get some drink. Y'all need anything to drink? They did not want nothing to drink. I walked in. I told the clerk that was working there, I said, do not let these kids get out of my cab. Law enforcement's on its way.
Okay.
So I advised my customers in the car, I advised them I had to use the restroom before we get started. So I walked in, advised the clerk what I just stated. I walked over to the right of the counter where I could keep an eye on the kids, and the law was there within 5 minutes.
Okay.
The law showed up. I walked back outside and talked to the officers.
And tell them the story you've told us, basically.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Where did the kids go? Where did you go and the kids go?
They pulled the female out of the vehicle. I told the officers I'd rather for the kids to stay in the cab.
Okay.
And I stayed out there with them.
And how long you stay out there with those?
The Shell station?
Yeah.
It was a good hour, 15 minutes, I guess.
You getting paid while you sit there?
No, sir, I wasn't.
Why'd you do it? Why were you sitting there when you're not getting paid?
The kids?
You worried about them?
Yes, sir, I was. Because I done told the officers, these kids not go nowhere unless I know they're safe.
Did they finally leave your cab?
Yes.
And where'd they go?
They went with the Department of
The Children's and Services
Yeah,
people?
Children's Services, yes, sir.
Did they come? Did you see them?
Yes, I did, and I made them show me identification.
What a great taxi driver describing how he protected those kids. Thank you to Eric Faddis for joining us. Kelly Hyman sticking around. Michael Ayala, I'm so glad, joining me next to get an update on the Adam Montgomery trial from our own Matt Johnson, plus more testimony in this trial. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ashley Wilcott.
And I'm Michael Ayala. We're both here today giving you your front row seat to justice. We're in New Hampshire this afternoon for the Harmony Montgomery murder trial, where defendant Adam Montgomery has actually pleaded guilty to 2 of the charges against him.
Now, Adam will still face second-degree murder charges for the death of his 5-year-old daughter, who was reported missing back in 2021, nearly 2 years after the police believed that she died.
And our Court TV cameras are also in Tennessee, where we're following the murder between mothers trial.
Defendant Annette Harvey is accused of fatally stabbing a university professor who was looking after her 2 children. We will get you back into that courtroom in just a moment. But first, Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson joining us live now from New Hampshire with all the latest in the trial against Adam Montgomery. Twists and turns, Matt. We understand he's pled guilty to 2 charges. Give us the details and that big moment in the courtroom.
Bombshell moment. Judge Ashley and Michael, nice to see you both. So that was outside of the presence of the jury, and the judge was actually just getting on the record. She was doing a colloquy with this defendant, making sure that he was okay with the statements that his defense attorneys were going to present during opening statements, which are now taking place tomorrow because court ran a little long today. So he will admit to guilt, or at least not challenge the 2 charges of abuse of a corpse and falsifying evidence, but the state will still have to prove it. Here's what was said in court.
You admit to each and every element of the offense of falsifying physical evidence and abuse of corpse. Is that okay? And did you speak with your lawyers in detail about that?
Yes, I did.
And have you reviewed the opening statement in which they will tell that to the jurors?
Yes, I did.
Montgomery making those statements to the judge, appearing in that video monitor, so you couldn't see him. He was in his orange jumpsuit today because he refused transport. He didn't want to face his jury in this murder trial. But again, he is still facing all of these counts that the state must prove: murder, assault, abuse of a corpse, falsifying evidence, and witness tampering. He's just not going to challenge those 2 counts.
Interesting choice today there, Matt. What else can you tell us about today? I know the jury actually went on a jury view.
Right, so there was a little bit of back and forth as to when this jury view was going to take place. But after that jury was seated and there was no opening statement before the view, the judge instructed both parties that they still need to set up what the jury was going to see, add some context before the 12 jurors and 5 alternates were going to load into a bus and then visit all of these locations. The state painted it as a picture of this jury will take the ride of Harmony's last ride through Manchester, New Hampshire before she was murdered. And they said you'll also visit some of the locations where she lived and where her body was stashed. And of course, her body never recovered. Here's what the state said.
We're going to see a couple different locations in Manchester. In some ways, it's going to be the beginning of a journey that you will likely never forget. And this is also the last journey that Harmony Montgomery took while she was alive and where her body went afterwards. It's a journey that's into the actions of the defendant on that day and the days forward. And we're going to drive by places where Harmony was first assaulted, where she was later killed.
After that, the defense attorney walked up to the jury box and she looked each and every one of them in the eye and said, we are not disputing that Harmony was at these different locations, but we are disputing when she was there and what happened to her. Take a listen to their case.
These places are exhibits of your mind. These places in your mind you apply to everything else that you hear, see, and consider in this case. The state said that this was the last journey that Harmony made. This is where the dispute starts. This is not the journey that Harmony made, but this will be the journey that we make today.
And right there on your screen, these are the locations in this tight-knit, kind of condensed community where this jury visited. At times, they were getting off the bus. So they visited a clinic, they visited a Burger King parking lot, Colonial Village apartments. That's going to be very critical for this particular trial. A few intersections, attorneys were saying, please note the time that it takes to get through the intersections and of this drive. And then, of course, the Chase Bank, which was formerly the Portland Pie Company. It's a pizza shop where Adam Montgomery worked and allegedly stored Harmony's body in a freezer. Just really shocking details that this jury is going to have to think about tonight before these opening statements that are set to begin. The jury is going to be called back at 8:45 in the morning. Everything ended a little bit earlier today because they keep a tight ship here at this particular courthouse. They close at 4, so no overtime.
Interesting. Well, I will say this. I think this jury is going to have to hear terrible facts, and we've warned viewers that it is a disturbing set of facts. Matt, that jury, tell us what we know about the jury composition, please.
It took a long time, Judge Ashley, to get the jury because of the publicity in this case and people that were impacted and affected by it so much. A lot of people raised their hand during voir dire and said that they actually attended some of the vigils or helped search for the little girl They're not on the jury. What we do have on this jury is a lot of women, and that's of note because of the nature of this case and these charges. So right there, that's your jury makeup. 12 jurors and 5 alternates. We do not know who the alternates are just yet. 3 men, 14 women, and then their ages are across the gamut. So 20s to 30s, about 3 people, 30 to 40s, 7 people, and 40s and older, we also have 7 people. But they were paying close attention today. There was no testimony in the case, but I was watching them during part of the jury view, and they were out and really trying to take their surroundings in. They're taking this very seriously, you can tell.
All right. Thank you so much, Matt Johnson. I know you'll remain there and bringing us all the updates out of New Hampshire. Still joining us for this hour, trial attorney, host of Once Upon a Crime in Hollywood, Kelly Hyman. Kelly, thank you for staying with us. And Michael and I were just talking briefly about that jury view because I had said earlier, I'm very surprised that there is a jury view in this case because it's a factual dispute. Not that they went to those places, but rather, as the defense just said, what time they went there and what happened to Harmony at those places. Are you surprised? Oh, and I think she froze, Michael. So tell me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I was surprised too. I thought that the route and the places she went were in dispute. It sounds like we do have Kelly back. Kelly, do we have you? All right,
yes,
so continue with your question.
Great. No, that's perfect. What do you, because it's rare that there's a jury view these days. So what do you think about it?
Judge, I couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely. I think it's very interesting in this kind of case. This is such, as you pointed out, horrific thing. So it's so sad what happened in this case. But I find it very interesting, absolutely to your point, that the jury is there and involved in this, very much so.
You know what's interesting? I think based on the way it was laid out by the defense, I think probably they think it's helpful to them in some way.
I guess.
And we have to wait and see. That's the only thing I can think of because certainly you would think that they would have balked at that. I certainly think I would have. But again, they may know something we don't know at this point. Kelly, I want to talk to you about the pleading to these charges. I thought, I honestly can't figure out why they would plead to these charges, falsifying evidence, abuse of corpse. I thought it would perhaps absolve them from having to go through all the evidence related to that, which is some of the horrific evidence here. But it sounds like, according to Matt, the state is still going to present evidence regarding those charges as well. So what do you think the thinking was in terms of pleading or agreeing not to contest those charges?
You know, I was thinking what you're thinking, maybe potentially not having that evidence in the fact that because he's admitted to those facts, that those the evidence in regards to that they can make an argument that there's no need to see this evidence, that maybe in fact, you know, by the jury seeing this stuff, that affects them as well. And so let's just have them, you know, if that's the case, admit to it, and so that they don't have to see the evidence. But yeah, I'm thinking, what's the reason as well, to your point, why are they doing this at this point in this case?
You know, is it strategy? Is it for him to be able to say, because he said when he was convicted of the gun charges, he said to that judge, I did not kill my daughter, Harmony Montgomery. So is it that he is coming out strong at the gate, if you want to believe this strategy, to say, I did do these things. I'm honest. I'm true to my word. I did these things, but I didn't kill her. That's a stretch, but is that a possibility?
Absolutely, that's definitely a possibility as well, that I've admitted to something that I did and come clean on, and having said that, I didn't do these other things as well. I think that's an interesting point. We're going to have to see how that plays out and what that is, but that is definitely potentially the reason why behind it. It's a good point.
Kelly, I think for me, it just sets up the fact that I wasn't sure exactly where the defense would go with their defense, whether they would just say, okay, state, prove that I did this, or they would maybe point the finger at somebody else, for instance, Kayla Montgomery. By doing this, I think it suggests they may want to point the finger at somebody else. He may say, yes, I may have helped after the fact, but it wasn't me who killed her. It was the woman up there on the stand saying I did it, and we know she's a liar.
Interesting, and it'll be interesting to see if he does testify. As you know, the defendant, it's their decision. An attorney can advise them and say, yes, I think you should testify, or don't testify. But ultimately, it's their decision, so we'll have to see. Is he going to take the stand and potentially blame someone else?
But to do that, he'd have to take the stand, Michael.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the part I feel like he's the kind of person who may say, I'm telling my story because I didn't do it. But what a risk.
Yeah, I don't think he does it. I think there's just too much. Too much, you know, he's got the bad background. He's also got a bit of a temper. He's not someone that's comfortable, clearly, with authority figures, as we've seen him in videos with police. Can't see that happening. Maybe the way they fashion their defense points the finger at Kate.
It's going to be interesting. One other question for you about some logistics that happened this morning, Kelly. We know that instead of doing opening statements, they decided they were going to do the jury view before opening statements, and the judge said, therefore, each side could make preliminary statements about the jury view. They did that. They went on the jury view. Now opening statements are tomorrow. That's not really how we see it done all of the time, but I think that sometimes you have to make it up as you go along in terms of things that come at you not expected. Does it have any benefit to either side?
I think it has a benefit to both sides because they get to go in front of the jury and basically say what their position is on something. So absolutely, it definitely has an effect so they can say, hey, this is right, this is not right, this is what we do. So it basically gives them two opportunities to speak in front of the jury. And that could be very powerful to tell their side of the story.
Good. Yeah, you know, Judge, I'd only seen it a couple times before, but I like it.
Yeah.
You know, you and I talk often about demonstrative aids and signposting. It's an opportunity to signpost what you're going to see.
You're right. I hadn't thought of it that way, but to hear from him twice, I think, is an advantage to both sides.
Yeah.
So we're going to keep following that trial for you. Coming up, though, we will head back to Tennessee for the murder between mothers trial for Annette Harvey. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, a 5-year-old vanishes. Now her own father stands trial for her murder. Our legal experts are going to break down all of today's proceedings in the case against Adam Montgomery. Plus, a Microsoft executive is gunned down. Now his ex-wife and her new husband stand accused of his murder. We'll have reaction from today's motions hearing and what it could mean for their upcoming trial.
Closing Arguments tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
Back now to Tennessee for the murder between mothers trial.
On January 18th, 2021, a 911 call is made by East Tennessee State University professor Robin Leonard. Now, she is struggling to communicate, but tells the operator, Annette Harvey, did this. Now, when police arrive, they find Leonard lying in a pool of blood with stab wounds to her torso, hand, and forearm.
Now the woman identified in that 911 call is on trial for the murder of Leonard.
All right, we're going to get you back into court now. The jury is hearing from a woman with the Department of Children's Services who responded to the taxi driver's call about Harvey.
And state your first and last name for us, please.
Jacosha Alexander.
And can we get that spelling correctly in our record?
Jacosha. Alexander. Alexander.
Thank you, ma'am. You may ask.
Miss Alexander, where do you work at?
The Department of Children's Services.
Okay, and have you sort of come and gone from that employment?
Yes.
Okay. When did you start with them?
Originally started 2007.
2007. At some point, did you go to Department of Corrections to be a probation officer?
Yes, I did.
Okay. How long did you do that?
I did probation parole for 1 year.
1 year, and then did you go back to DCS?
Then I went to ETSU for 1 year and then came back to DCS January of 2023.
Okay. So back in January of 2021, were you with DCS then?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And were you on the CPS side or the DCS side?
Yes.
Or which one?
CPS side.
CPS. Can you explain to the jury what that is?
Office of Child Safety is the first initial contact from the child abuse hotline. You call in a referral, suspected abuse or neglect, and the CPS worker responds to that.
Okay. So sometimes are you called DCS and it's really CPS you're working?
We're always called DCS.
Okay. It's just part of the
Yes.
same thing.
Yes.
But you get both labels.
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to clear that up. So are there times as such an investigator that you're just like the police investigators and you have to be on call at weird hours?
Yes.
Is that, why is that? Why do y'all need that?
Child abuse doesn't stop.
It doesn't.
So it's a
Not banker
24-hour referral hotline, so someone needs to be available 24 hours a day.
Okay. So back around January 15 of 2021, did you have occasion to be on call when some calls regarding Annette Harvey were made?
Yes.
Okay. And what was the first dealings you had with Annette Harvey?
The first dealing that I had with Annette Harvey was Saturday, I believe it was the 18th.
Okay. Where was the
Shell station in Johnson City? I got a emergency call to respond to the Shell station.
At the Shell station?
Yes.
Oh, was that over the weekend?
Yes, it was on a Saturday morning.
Now, had you dealt with that subject before but not met her?
Yes. The day before, I was also on call and received a call from one of my coworkers letting me know that there was a deputy at Davy Crockett High School that needed assistance with a situation that was going on.
Okay.
So that was when I first heard about Annette Harvey.
Okay, so the incident at David Crockett High School, did you actually respond to there? Did you go there?
I did not physically go there.
Okay, and is there a reason?
Yes. The deputy did not call it into the hotline, so I received his number from the coworker that just called me directly.
Okay.
So I phoned the deputy and just walked him through the process of you need to call this into the hotline before someone could respond. So when he did that, it came in as not an emergency call. It came in as a priority 3, which means the worker has 3 days to respond.
Okay. So the jury doesn't know about the hotline and the significance of that. So, sometimes in your work, the officers just happen to have your cell phone number.
Yes.
So they'll call you, DAs call you.
They'll call directly, yes.
We bother you no matter when you're working, right?
Yes.
And what's the purpose statewide for that hotline number?
The purpose of it is to make sure that you're being connected to the right county, the right worker, whatever the situation is. You just need to make sure it's going to the right person.
Okay, and does somebody in Nashville or somebody above you did they then categorize that call?
Yes, the child abuse hotline is originated from Nashville.
Okay, so then they tell you what priority this is?
Yes.
Right, you don't make that determination?
No, I do not.
So they give you a code that doesn't require you to go out there at that moment?
Yes.
Right, okay, so you limited your interactions to the deputy?
I did at that time. When I realized that it did come in as a priority 3, I did call the deputy back to tell him that.
Okay.
When I told him that, he told me that the family had already left the scene.
Oh, okay. So the children were already gone?
They were already gone.
They'd already sorted out what
Yes.
they were doing without you?
Yes,
right?
they did.
Okay.
And I was asked to phone Rebecca Lewis to let her know that a worker would follow up with her, and I was given the information from the deputy.
Okay, and when you say I'm going to follow up with you on such a circumstance, what do you mean by that?
I was letting her know that the way the call came in, a worker would follow up with her in a few days. So it was 3 days that a worker would be following up with her.
Okay, so on the next occasion at the Shell station, did that go to the hotline?
That did not go to the hotline originally either. I received a call from a Johnson City police officer, Officer Debbie Dunn.
Okay.
And she was telling me that they were in the process of calling the hotline and they needed immediate assistance. So she described what was going on, a manic mom with children. It sounded like it probably was going to be an emergency, so I went ahead and went on.
You didn't wait for the hotline?
I didn't wait for the hotline.
Okay. And where was the Shell station at?
In Johnson City.
Okay.
I can't remember the exact street name.
And then on that occasion, did you get to meet Annette Harvey?
Yes.
Okay. And how many children did she have?
There were 2 girls.
2 girls, sort of pre-adolescent,
Yes.
safe to say. Was there a taxi cab there?
Yeah, they were sitting inside of a taxi when I arrived.
And tell us about your interactions and what happened as far as dealing with Miss Harvey.
When I arrived, she was inside the taxi. I asked her if we could talk inside the store. I couldn't really make a lot of sense of what she was telling me. She talked about someone following her. She made comments about one of her daughters being sex trafficked. I have an assessment form that I asked the child's name and birth dates. So I went through my assessment form. When I got to one of the children's birth dates, she volunteered saying one of them was born off the grid, didn't have a birth certificate, didn't have a social security number. It was just a lot of chatter that I couldn't really make sense of.
Sort of unusual.
Yes.
Was she making allegations against certain people, or?
She was saying someone was following her. She mentioned her ex-husband trying to kill her. It was just a lot of different chatter that to me did not make sense at all.
Okay. Was she saying things about that happened to her children too?
Yeah, when she was saying that one of the children were being sex trafficked.
Okay.
I mean, that's a key word. You know, I have to be able to make sense of what you're saying. You're telling me this, and I couldn't get any follow-up from that because she wasn't really making sense.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this way, because did you believe her story?
It wasn't really a whole story to believe. It was just a lot of words that I couldn't make sense of.
What did you feel your duty was, though, hearing this?
My duty is always to keep the children safe.
Okay. And what would you need to do that?
Just find what we always try to find a family member or someone who the children are familiar with or comfortable with, to try to make a temporary plan to be able to come together as a team to have a meeting to figure out what we need to do.
Okay. So your job right there at the Shell station mainly is, where are these kids going to be safe until we can sit down and meet?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. But is there greater duties for a CPS worker for those children about the allegations that are being made that children are being harmed?
Yes, we definitely would need to look into that.
Okay. So what Ms. Harvey was saying to you, at least, would you say it demanded some investigation?
Yes.
Okay. Could you do that there at the Shell station?
No.
Why is that?
I didn't have enough information to go on. I mean,
Yeah.
It was not all parties were involved. I didn't know who she was saying was following her.
Was she saying stuff about New Jersey, other states too?
She mentioned that she had already had a DCS worker because that's when she was talking about the kids were being sex trafficked.
Okay.
And then she did say that she came from New Jersey and was staying in an Airbnb.
Okay. So would you say, yes or no, the things she was saying that were being perpetrated on her children by other people, did you believe that demanded some investigation?
Yes.
By either you or someone else?
Yes.
Okay. But first things first, where are these kids going at that point?
Yes.
That's the first priority, right? So who else were you dealing with eventually?
As far as I call them
where these kids are going to go?
Yeah.
Who else?
Okay, so there were Rebecca, the woman that I had spoke to the night before. I didn't know why she didn't have the kids with her. So I believe I called her on my way to the Shell station, just asking her what happened.
Okay.
And I did tell her, I asked her if she could come to the Shell station.
Okay.
And I can't remember if she got there before I did or if she was there when I pulled up. But her and Robin Leonard did end up at the Shell station.
They wound up, they came together?
Yes, they were together.
Okay. And how did the discussion go forward then about who takes the children?
I think I brought up the immediate protection agreement, saying if one of them wanted to hold on to the girls until we could manage the meeting. I do remember that Rebecca did say she wasn't comfortable with it. I don't remember if Robin volunteered or if I asked her if she wanted to. If I have a family member, I always have to ask the family member if they're willing. But she ended up agreeing that.
Let me slow you down just a little
Okay.
bit, because you used the
Judge, I just want to check in with you because I know this is your area of expertise. DCS comes upon the scene, and I was concerned that they would take children and put them into a home of not a family member, but friends,
right,
without doing a deeper check. But you say that's normal in many states.
In what is called as the immediate protection meeting in this state, it's called different things, but the goal is to keep a child out of foster care unless absolutely necessary. So it doesn't mean they don't ask any questions or learn some preliminary information, but rather it's a cursory check to make sure children would be safe in that home until they can sort it all out.
And then they do more work on it as time goes on. All right, we're going to take a break here. When we come back, Leonard tells the DCS officer that she didn't want Harvey in her house. That testimony next, so keep it here on Court TV. Welcome back to Court TV Live. Michael Ayala here with Judge Ashley Wilcott. Premeditated murder or the tragic result of paranoid delusions. Two dueling narratives between the state and defense in the trial against Annette Harvey.
The 54-year-old is accused of stabbing her friend, Robin Leonard, to death back in January of 2021. Leonard had custody of Harvey's two young children at the time, and now Harvey faces life in prison if she is convicted of first-degree murder.
Right now, the jury is hearing from a woman, with the Department of Children's Services. She's on direct examination. Let's go back in for more of her testimony.
Immediate protection agreement.
Sorry.
Is that like, what's that mean?
An immediate protection agreement is an agreement the Department of Children's Services has between the parent and a family member, a relative, someone they know, just saying, you will agree to hold on to these children temporarily until we could all sit down and have a meeting and figure out what's going on.
Okay. Now, can you just force somebody to sign an immediate protection agreement?
No, it's voluntary.
It's voluntary?
Yes.
By who?
It's voluntary by the parent.
By the parent and the person who's going to take the child?
Yes, and the person who is agreeing to be the caregiver, it's all voluntary.
Okay. And is there a form for that?
Yes, there is.
And did you go over that form with these ladies?
Yes, I did.
And what was Miss Harvey's, how did it go between her talking about this immediate protection agreement?
With her, from what I can remember, I threw out, if I couldn't find a family member, our next step was I would have to notify the foster care department. And I think by me saying that, that's when everyone agreed they did not want the children in foster care and just to let Robin go ahead and do it.
Including Miss Harvey?
Yes.
Didn't want them in foster care?
No, she didn't want them in foster care.
She wanted somebody she knew?
Yes.
Okay. So Miss Leonard, she step up?
She did.
And agree?
Yes, she did.
Did she give a stipulation?
Yes, she did not want to keep them. She made it clear that this was just temporary, and she also said that she did not want Miss Harvey at her house.
Did Miss Harvey hear that?
Yes.
Was she right there?
It's on the form that she could have supervised contact, but I did write on there. I can't remember if I wrote it on there or if we just talked about Miss Harvey did not want her at her house.
Okay, you discussed that with Miss Harvey?
Yes.
To not come to Robin Leonard's house?
Yes.
Did she act like she understood it?
It was just, at that time, I felt like she did understand that. Yes.
Okay. Did she, okay. Was she allowed to call her kids?
There wasn't it wasn't no contact. It was supervised contact.
Okay.
So if she wanted to call, that probably would have been fine.
But don't come to Robin Leonard's house.
Right. She couldn't be unsupervised with the children.
When Robin Leonard said that, how far? Where were you?
Robin and Rebecca were in the car, and Miss Harvey was in the store. So I kept going back and forth between the car and the store.
Okay. So it's not all in one gathering of 4 people.
At one point, I remember her coming over to the car, but there was never a time that we all were in the store.
Okay. So Robin Leonard told you, I don't want her at my house, and then you relayed that
Yes.
to Annette Harvey. Just to be clear, right?
Yes.
Okay. Just a second.
All right, we need to take a break, but stay with us because the next witness will be the victim's son. He takes the stand. Stay tuned.
An innocent child and an unthinkable tragedy.
5-year-old Harmony Montgomery disappeared in 2019.
So you just need to find out where she is. I have nothing to say.
Now her own father stands trial for her brutal murder.
I did not kill my daughter, Harmony, and I look forward to my upcoming trial.
So many questions that come back to the same question. How could this happen?
The murder of Harmony Montgomery trial. Live coverage today, only on Court TV.
Testimony is ongoing in the murder between mothers trial out of Tennessee. Defendant Annette Harvey has pled not guilty to first-degree murder in connection to the stabbing death of Robin Leonard.
And now the jury is about to hear from the victim's son, Alexander Leonard. Let's get you back into court.
You're seated, sir. Please state your first and last name.
My name is Alexander Leonard.
And spell those for us.
Alexander. And Leo and ARD.
Thank you, sir. You may ask Jim.
Hey, sir, do you know Robin Leonard?
Yes, sir. That's my mother.
Your mother? How old are you?
I am 30.
30? And you got any brothers, sisters?
No, I'm an only child. I have a couple cousins that are like brothers.
Okay. And tell us about yourself. What kind of jobs have you done over the years?
Well, I am a musician professionally. For a while, I was a band director, and then I quit that to go back and try to finish my degree here at ETSU.
Okay. And what kind of instruments you play?
I started with the violin at age 6 and fell in love with the trumpet in high school my sophomore year, and those two have kind of just been where I have stayed my entire life.
Okay. And growing up, did you have, who raised you?
My mom, my grandmother, and my aunt and uncle when they had the time and chance.
Okay. Was your mom a single mom?
Yes.
Pretty much through your whole youth?
She was married for the first year of my life and divorced shortly after my birth. And that was my stepfather. That wasn't my biological dad.
Okay. Yeah. From that point, did you have a father figure who was a dad or stepdad, or was she alone?
She was alone in raising me, but we had a very tight family. My uncle is what I would consider the closest thing to a father figure.
What about your mom when you were little? I mean, real little. Was she working?
All the time.
Like doing what?
So she was a waitress at Scobie's when that was still around, and then Red Lobster and Olive Garden there for a while. I would say, I think the original number that I remember was 17 years by the end of all of that. She worked constantly since the day I was born, tirelessly.
Full time?
I believe as full time as she could go, with the assistance of my grandmother, because we lived together when I was a kid. And when she went back to school, I think she was doing 30, 40 hours a week then too.
Okay, so you lived at your grandma's?
Yes.
And was that in Washington or Sullivan County?
Sullivan County.
Sullivan County.
Over in Bluff City.
Where had your mom gone to school?
Which time?
Well, I'm talking about like elementary and high school, that kind of stuff.
My mom went to Tri-Cities Christian, and I think she was 15 or 16 when they switched her over to Central High School, and they pretty much said that she had kind of learned everything that they could teach her, and that it would be best if she moved on to college.
Okay.
And then she went to Liberty University.
Went to Liberty? Did she graduate?
No. She started at Liberty at around 16, and then her father died of a heart attack shortly thereafter and dropped out.
She dropped out?
Yes.
Okay. While raising you, did she go back to school?
Yes.
And such as?
When I was about 4 years old, she started attending ETSU with some of her Red Lobster mates, and continued on to pursue a degree in psychology. I don't remember exactly when she graduated for her bachelor's, but I do remember her being in her master's when I was in the 3rd grade, and it was always kind of a point of pride of her, because that 3rd grade year, she was also PTA president, still working at Red Lobster, still going through being a TA to her mentor, Dr. Zinzer, just working nonstop.
Okay, what's a TA?
A teaching assistant.
Teaching assistant. And what school were you going to when she was PTA president?
Bluff City Elementary.
Bluff City Elementary. You say that was 3rd grade?
Yes, I was there for 3rd through 5th grade.
Okay. And where was she working then? Or was she still doing the same kind of work?
Yep.
Waiting tables?
Yep. That was the time she was working both at Red Lobster and Olive Garden.
Did she bartend some too?
As she finished doing her master's and started teaching at the universities, she had very sporadic free time, and so that kind of weekend time was the best opportunity to make money. So that's when she started bartending. That's when she started teaching.
Okay. Do you remember about when she got her graduate degree?
I want to say 2005, 2006.
Okay. And where was she teaching?
At the height of her workload, she was teaching at Northeast State, ETSU, Milligan College, and King College.
All at once, or
all at once?
All at once, like a class.
They wouldn't give her. They wouldn't give her enough course load at ETSU, so she started working at Northeast. Then they wouldn't give her enough of those two to make the. She wanted to provide me a lifestyle that she honestly could not afford. Racked up debt doing so. Managed to pay that off by just working constantly, and so she worked essentially 6 jobs at a time, 4 universities, waiting tables, and bartending all at once until she had a heart attack.
Okay. When did she have a heart attack?
I think she was 39. I was in high school. I was around 16 or 17.
Where'd you go to high school at?
I went to Sullivan Central High School for 1 year, and then I transferred over to Science Hill for the sophomore through senior years.
So she has a heart attack, and did her employment situation improve after that?
She realized that she was not a superhuman and could not continue to operate on superhuman levels. Mm-hmm. And in that time, her boss, Dr. Wallace Dixon, realized how valuable of an asset she was and made the decisions to pull as many strings as he could, and eventually she became a full-time lecturer at ETSU, starting as a junior and then working her way up to senior lecturer.
Remember when I went there, we called everybody professor, and that we throw that word around. Was she a professor at ETSU?
So when you refer to your teachers, you can refer to them as professors. Her actual position title is a lecturer.
Okay.
She was originally an adjunct professor, which is the lowest level, no benefits, and those kinds of things. That's when she was working at all four. When she became a junior lecturer, she was working at ETSU in Northeast, still as adjunct over at Northeast. But the lecturer position gives you benefits and full-time, and you have to start going to meetings that you didn't have to go to before, extra clerical work at that point.
Okay. Yeah, that's what she achieved?
Yes.
About when?
I was still in high school, so around, I want to say 2011.
Okay. When did you graduate?
2012.
Okay. And so did she work full-time at ETSU in the psychology department from then on?
Yes, while still waiting tables and bartending, because she still just wanted to give me a better life. I got to go be a part of band and go on the trip to New York and Philadelphia because she would go wait tables, and she just...
All right, let's bring back in our guest with us, trial attorney Kelly Hyman. Kelly, important testimony here, humanizing the victim in this case, because one thing we know is that the defense is going to try to sully her a little bit by claiming she was alcoholic. And one of the reasons that Annette Harvey goes and tries to get the kids, because she didn't think she was the right person to be taking care of the kids. So important testimony here.
Absolutely, definitely compelling testimony and important testimony, because he has firsthand knowledge of his mom, what his mom went through, how she worked so hard, how she wanted to provide for him for a better life. And as you said, Michael, humanizes her, really tells a compelling story of here is this woman that's raising her son by herself, working all these jobs, want a better life for him. And then she also goes and takes care of these kids, these poor kids that, that according to...
Oh, I think we may have lost her. Michael, let me just ask you really quickly about the demeanor of the defendant and what you notice, if anything.
Look, we've talked about it. It looks like she's on some kind of medication. The facial expression has not changed.
Hasn't changed.
And it's not a good facial expression, right? I mean, the way it looks, we've been sort of joking around, but as we've mentioned many times, jurors look at everything.
Yeah, and it's just... It's a frozen look that, to your point, is just not remorseful, not upset, not sad, nothing.
It kind of looks just kind of like perturbed.
Yeah.
Like she's just, what is all this? You know what I mean? So I don't know, and I'm sure that's not how she's feeling, but that's the way it looks to me.
Yeah, it's interesting. We've just seen no change in expression regardless of testimony. All right, thank you, Kelly Hyman, for joining us this hour.
Folks, coming up, more testimony from the victim's son. This is Court TV Live, your front row seat to justice. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Michael Ayala. Court TV cameras are across the country, bringing you 3 important trials today. In Tennessee, Annette Harvey is charged with killing her friend and a beloved college professor. And today, powerful and emotional witness testimony from a childhood friend of the victim and defendant. And in Connecticut, trial continues in the missing mom conspiracy trial. Back on the stand today, a former employee of Fotis Dulos. But first, we're going to start in New Hampshire, where Adam Montgomery is now on trial for the brutal beating death of his 5-year-old daughter, Hyman.
I understand that I was found guilty by a jury. I'm not here to dispute that at all. The only consideration that I ask of you this morning is for you not to consider anything as it relates to the case regarding my daughter Harmony. I did not kill my daughter Harmony, and I look forward to my upcoming trial to refute those offensive claims.
You admit to each and every element of the offense of falsifying physical evidence and abuse of corpse. Is that okay? And did you speak with your lawyers in detail about that?
Yes, I did.
As you just heard, the day started with a surprise move from defendant Adam Montgomery, who declined to be in court today, but he did appear via Zoom. Now, Montgomery intends to plead guilty to 2 charges, falsifying physical evidence and abuse of a corpse. He's still going to be tried on the other charges, second-degree murder, witness tampering, and second-degree assault. Now, after that surprise move, both sides delivered preview statements, which are a bit different from an opening statement. That's because the jury was actually loaded onto a bus and taken on a jury view. So we're going to take you live to New Hampshire at the top of the hour for a debrief on all of today's developments, so you don't want to miss that. We're going to turn now to Tennessee, though, for the murder between mothers trial. On January 18, 2021, a 911 call is made by East Tennessee State University lecturer Robin Leonard. Now, she is struggling to communicate, but tells the operator Annette Harvey did this. Now, when police arrive, they find Leonard laying in a pool of blood with stab wounds to her torso, hand, and forearm. And now Harvey is on trial, charged with killing Leonard. Now, we have more testimony to bring you in this trial. On the stand right now is Alexander Leonard. He is the victim's son. He's testifying here on direct examination. Excuse me. Let me get you back into court.
Violin lessons.
Now, that was help from my Aunt Laura. She saw music as a very important part of her life and wanted it to be a very important part of mine. And I definitely had an extremely close family unit that helped a lot.
Okay. Now, did y'all wind up living at 825 Hamilton Street?
She did. I did not. We lived at 818 Morningside Drive when I was in high school, and she was still paying off her debts when I was there. And once I went off to college, I started to take care of myself to an extent.
Yeah.
Still had a lot of help, but my mom was able to start saving some of that money and work towards buying a house.
So when you were in high school in Morningside, was she renting a residence then?
Yes.
Okay, so the 825 Hamilton Street, did she wind up owning that?
Yes, she bought, I want to say in 2017.
Okay. Got a mortgage?
Yes.
Were you close to her?
Yes, I would say most definitely. I would say around 22, I had my most rebellious phase, and we didn't talk for about a year.
Yeah.
And after that, both of us had some time away and kind of grew in ourselves. I know I grew up a lot then, and we started to have the adult relationship stage of our time together. In my mid-20s, when I was working at North Green High School as a band director, I would go out to sing karaoke with my mom on the weekends here and there when I had time, and she had time.
Was she a fun person to be around?
Absolutely.
Hard to say about a mom sometimes, but was she?
No, I mean, she was the cool one. I was always the lame one. I don't really socialize very well. I have a lot of social anxiety, and I'm also very stubborn and unapproachable in a lot of ways. I think I'm always right. And my mom was the antithesis of that. Could get along with everybody, knew everyone in the room, was, I wouldn't say the life of the party, but you know, when you have those party situations, the mom of the room is kind of her role. She was a mediator, but also knew how to have fun. She was always there as a great part of the unit. And yeah.
You got extroverts and introverts. Where was she?
Oh, definitely on the extroverted side.
Likes to talk to people, get to know them.
Yes.
Right, okay. So how did COVID affect her when that came
on? That was probably the hardest point of her life, because she was such a social creature, but she also was a scientist at heart. She believed in the medical professionals and the advice of the epidemiologists and researchers to the best knowledge that she had at the time. The best thing she could do was not go out.
Okay. And what about the heart attack? Did that make a particular concern?
Absolutely. She wanted to live for as long as she could, and the blood thinners and stents, those those were always a concern because, you know, people with breathing problems, people with diabetes, people with heart conditions, those were all things that she had issues with, and they were big flags on, hey, if you get COVID, you're not going to be okay.
Would she talk about that with you?
We had many arguments about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like medications, did she have to take medications because of the heart condition?
Yeah, after her heart attack in high school, she had to get 2 stents put in, and she had blood thinners at the time, for sure. I know she went through a myriad of different blood pressure medications throughout her life, and she was pre-diabetic as well and had to take medicines to regulate her blood sugar for quite a few years until she got healthier.
Okay, so let's move up to January 2021.
Yes, sir.
It's Friday night, the 16th of January, or 15th, Friday night. You remember the Friday night?
Yeah, so my mom and I were going to have just a little dinner get-together because both of us were about to start back at ETSU for this semester, and we were about to get really busy. And that was kind of going to be our last time to hang out and see each other, so she wanted to do a nice meal. So I went and picked up a meal over at the Label, brought it back to her home, and we ate and had a nice night. And then she wanted a hot fudge sundae from McDonald's, and I went out and got a couple of those for us. And when I came back, she was just getting off the phone with Annette.
Okay. Now, before we get into that, had she drank some?
Yes. As kind of per usual, she had a glass before I got there and another one when I was there while we ate. She would drink when she got home, as most people kind of do. She didn't have the standard 9 to 5, right? But she still worked, and when she was done, she would drink to kind of just take the edge off and relax at home.
From your experience, was she careful about, or not, about drinking and having a class to teach at 8 in the morning?
She was neurotic about her habits and always made sure that if she had time with her family, time as a professional, any kind of obligation in her life would come before her own comfort and joy. And so I would say yes, she would never go get sloshed and be hungover to go teach a class.
Okay.
That would never happen.
Okay. So tell us about that phone call. You say you get back with the hot fudge sundaes and she's on the phone or just got off the phone?
She was in her room and I wasn't going to open the door. It was closed. She usually leaves it open, so when it's closed, that means it's a private call. I'm not going to invade that privacy, but I heard her just talking on the phone, and then when she was off, I knocked, entered. She was visibly upset, and I asked her what's going on, and she said Annette was on the phone. She's over at the hospital. Can you go drive us to pick her up?
Did you know who she meant by Annette?
Yes. Annette had been a part of my life in a few different chapters. I think the one that I had the most interactions with Annette Carrico was, or I guess Annette Harvey, sorry, was when I was in high school, and her daughter Amanda was one of my close friends, and we would hang out on the regular.
Okay, so she got off the phone with Annette. Did she? Why was she upset, or what was bothering her?
She was upset because we kind of just had a night to ourselves that was disrupted by yet another thing. And with Annette, that had been going on continuously for the past little bit anyways. And my mom's patience was still there, but starting to lack. And my mom was not happy with having to go pick Annette up at the hospital. You could tell that there was something wrong. I didn't know anything because my mom wasn't giving me any extra information.
Okay.
And I didn't really know anything until we got to Annette.
So before we go to the hospital, let's talk about that recent past that you just alluded to from Annette, regarding Annette Harvey.
Yes.
What were you aware of at that moment from these past weeks?
Okay, so what I was aware of at the time was that Annette came down to visit sometime after Thanksgiving and had been having problems at home and had brought the girls down for my mom to see. My mom always loved kids. And they kind of, I think Annette had a party of some sort. My mom didn't want to go because of COVID. I do think that she went and like dropped off presents, saw the kids, kind of said hi, that kind of thing, but was trying her best to follow the rules that she had set for herself and balance being a good friend.
So was that for like a birthday party for Annette Harvey, early December, or somebody's party?
It was somebody's party, yeah.
Okay, you didn't go?
No.
Okay. So did Miss Harvey then leave and she wasn't in the area after that the rest of the month, right?
No, not to my knowledge.
So come January, did she show back up?
Yes.
Okay, and did she show up at your mom's house?
Yes.
Did you have any interactions with Miss Harvey, or were you just hearing stuff?
I was just hearing stuff.
Okay. And were you hearing about problems she was alleging against Michael Slattery?
Yes. So
her husband.
The crux of the situation that I was told, and I was not told a lot, but that Michael had been abusing both Annette and her children and had threatened Annette at gunpoint. Okay. And she had fled for her safety.
From your impressions, talking to your mom, was your mom trying to help her?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
She called the TBI. She called friends that knew social services, tried to get Annette into housing. She did everything that she felt she could, and then some. I do remember her complaining about how much laundry she was having to do, because that was one of her least favorite chores. Okay. And she was doing extra.
All right, Alexander Leonard, the victim's son, really giving the jury a great sense of who his mother was. We're going to stay in Tennessee after the break. The victim's son remains on the stand, and we'll hear more testimony about that incident at that local hospital. Keep it here on Court TV, your front row seat to justice.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, a 5-year-old vanishes. Now her own father stands trial for her murder. Our legal experts are going to break down all of today's proceedings in the case against Adam Montgomery. Plus, a Microsoft executive is gunned down. Now his ex-wife and her new husband stand accused of his murder. We'll have reaction from today's motions hearing and what it could mean for their upcoming trial.
Closing Arguments, tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
All right, before I take you back to Tennessee, I want to bring in our guest joining us to discuss in Detroit, Michigan, National Trial Attorney Michael Jaffer. Michael, great to see you. Thank you so much for joining me on the program. First and foremost, as I said going out, the son of the victim is doing a great job of humanizing her. I think, you know, she's a hard worker, clearly. She was struggling with some health issues. She was an extrovert who was the mom of the party. We all know this person. I think that's a good thing, certainly, for this jury to hear, because we do know there are, I think the defense is going to raise issues about her drinking, et cetera, et cetera. But it's going to be a difficult job, after hearing what we're hearing, for this defense to get up and try to undermine some of the wonderful things we're hearing about this victim.
I agree with you, Michael. This is a textbook execution by the prosecution. The woman having drinking problems, that humanizes her even more, because what they're going to be able to rely on is, well, she took in 2 kids that were not her own to protect them from all these other egregious allegations, and pedophile ring or whatever. So I think that there's nothing they can bring back at this woman. She was a beloved professor. She took in kids that were not her own. I think this is a textbook execution, and I agree with you. This is so far looking really, really bad. The defense is going to have to work really hard.